Hello, everyone. I'm Sonya Keshwani. I'm the founder of Stylist Team, and I hope that today's masterclass instills in you this audacious confidence to start a non traditional career path in the creative field, the bravery to know that sometimes life really begins in those moments that you think it's all over, and the steady faith to never ever give up on the vision that God has put into your heart. And although I stand today before you as the founder of Stylist Team, I wanted to first start with where I come from in order to tell you how I got here. So, when I was in high school, much like Aisha, I was at that age when I was thinking about what I want to do with my future. And after years of being inspired by everything from the stores on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan to season after season of Project Runway to editions of Vogue from around the world, I was convinced that I too was destined to be part of fashion history. But when I shared this news with my parents that I wanted to be a fashion designer, they didn't tell me no. I know what you're thinking. They just told me maybe not right now. They told me that their only expectation of me was that I should go to college and pursue a degree that secures my future. Because if I go into fashion and if it doesn't work out for any reason, at least my future would be secured. And so at that point, I began to consider what else am I passionate about? And so growing up in New York City during 9/11 and seeing the aftermath of the terrorist attacks on our city, our country, and our globe, I knew that the future of our society could be a safe, free, and prosperous one for us all, only if there were people that looked like you and I in positions of power informing policy decisions. And so that's how I ended up in Washington, D.C. And in Washington, D.C., I studied international affairs at the George Washington University, and I earned my master's degree in public relations and corporate communications at Georgetown. And I was building my career in the federal government in the field of law and communications at the Office of Chief Counsel at the Treasury Department. And upon graduation from Georgetown, I began my dream job at the Department of Justice, where I was a national security public affairs specialist. I was traveling the world, excelling in my career, and living my best life going into 2018, which was also the same year as the Diamond Jubilee. I was in Atlanta for Didar, and it was the day before Didar. I was showering to get ready, and I noticed something unusual during that shower. I felt a lump in my left breast. And while I prayed that due to my age and the lack of family history, that it was a false alarm, I did still advocate for myself in doctor's appointments, during biopsies, scans, and genetic testing until I got to the bottom of it. And it was at that point that I heard those three words: "You have cancer," at the age of 29. And so I immediately went into problem-solving mode as we figured out my treatment protocol, which would require 1 year of chemotherapy and multiple surgeries. And I decided to continue working full-time and travel home to New York for treatment every 3 weeks because that's what I needed for my mental health. And so cancer itself can be an incredibly dehumanizing experience, which makes you feel like you're simply a body in a waiting room, waiting to learn your fate every day that you get to wake up. But after my first round of chemo in May of 2018, I felt even more disconnected from life and myself when I experienced hair loss. To cope with this earth-shattering side effect of chemotherapy, I was basically told to buy a wig and to try to deal with it. But as I came to find out, hair loss is so much more than those strands simply falling out of your scalp. It is the loss of your personal identity, your personal history, and your personal style, of course. And it's also the onslaught of even more side effects that no one warns you about, like sore and dry scalp and numbing migraines. And simply wearing false hair isn't only physically uncomfortable, it puts an even greater distance between yourself and your authentic self. And so I started looking for a solution that felt more like me. But all I could find were these drib and drab chemo beanies that I would never wear as a healthy person, much less when I was looking and feeling sick, as I was. And I also did find some very high-end pieces, but they were really only coming around when turbans were trending. And so nothing I found felt like it was created for a woman walking the path that I was, of thriving through cancer. And this is when I first noticed this gap in the fashion industry. So embracing my love of fashion and creativity, I basically decided to take matters into my own hands. So one day, after 8 hours in the infusion chair, I took whatever strength and courage that I had left in me, and I walked a few blocks over to this small fabric shop next to my hospital in Astoria, Queens. And stepping into that door of the shop would instantly change my perspective. Instead of counting the days that I had left to my final chemotherapy, I began to see the future in a much more hopeful light. And it would be as simple as finding a jewel tone fabric and looking forward to the holidays and how I would dress up in the holidays, or finding a fun print and thinking about making travel plans to travel when I'm well again. Each fabric I found held dreams for me of what the future could look like. And so I thought to myself, what if I literally wear my dreams as my crown? And so this ritual of visiting the fabric shop and experimenting with my mother's sewing machine after each round of chemo led to the creation of a beautiful personal collection of turbans that changed everything for me. As you can see, I was no longer resisting the new normal, I was creating it. One where I dressed like the best version of myself and walked into every room, even the operating room, with my head held high and pride in my story. And in this case, I discovered that the dark times I was experiencing were like a mirror. And when I looked into the mirror, I could not find myself. But when I used the power of art and fashion to shed a light, I saw a new version of myself that I was meeting for the first time in that same mirror. And so, while society might have thought that as a cancer patient, I should wear a wig, I should withdraw, and I should just wait it out as my femininity and my life hang in the balance, wearing a turban gave me this inner audacity to believe otherwise. And when I wore my special creations, I felt like I was wearing a crown that was made just for me, and I felt like true royalty. And that's when I knew that I wanted to share this feeling of style and esteem with other women so that I could help empower them in their own path in life. And well, this is at the end of the day what inspired me to leave my career in federal government, move back home to New York, and to launch my business. So I wanted to share with you a really wonderful, a bit of a really wonderful segment that we recently had on Pix 11 News, so you can learn a little bit more about our passion and our purpose at Stylist Team. Of course, during chemotherapy, so much is changing. I wanted to wear something on my head that made me feel more like myself. So a turban is something that has been around for thousands of years, and it is something that keeps coming back in fashion because it is so timeless. We all have that loyalty in us, and you know, if you wear a turban, that makes you a Stylist Team queen.
I want to be a Stylist Team queen.
I think you already are.
I am.
I kind of decided, you know, whatever my journey is, I'm going to tell that story, and I'm going to do it through turban.
Hello, I don't want you to wear this one.
No.
You know why? Because I want to wear it.
You won't admit you love me.
This feels so right. I feel very fancy right now, but it doesn't have to be fancy. It can be dressed down, dressed up,
Sure.
move aside.
Point me in the direction of the palace, please.
That way. You high five. A lot of these cultures have had these headpieces, and forever they weren't stylish, but you give them a stylish option.
I just love this hot pink statement.
You don't ever have to ask if I want to try something on. You can just throw it on my head.
Red or
It's like a little pop of surprise color when you turn around.
Oh, I'm just wearing a regular turban. Psych.
And we're all dressing like each other.
Yeah.
You know, this is something that is a way to stand out and to connect truly with yourself and your wardrobe and to express who you are.
There's a lot of different style turbans here, so I figured you and I have a fashion montage just for these two areas.
Let's do it.
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why
Are you that Beyonce fan?
I'll stand here.
And so, these headpieces by Sonya, born out of fear and uncertainty, now represent confidence and a new life, a career she never saw coming, just a way to make herself feel whole again, to feel pretty, to give her a sense of tradition, or not, a sense of decadence, or not, because that's the beauty of these pieces. They can become whatever you want them to be. A night out, a day in, a touch of style, a touch of esteem.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, where are we? Today, Stylist Team is the first fashion house to create ready-to-wear headwear collections according to season and occasion, like spring and summer to fall and winter, or like day wear and evening wear to lounge and active wear. Our collections are set up in this way so that women can shop for turbans and headpieces the same way that they shop for clothes. And at the end of the day, our designs, they transcend culture, religion, and even hair stories, while still managing to honor them. And they're intended as fashion-forward pieces that are created to make a statement about your story. Like if you're a Stylist Team queen that has found us because of a diagnosis, we want our designs to make you feel like a woman first and a patient last. And so even though we are a fashion label, we're really committed to going beyond the fabric of our creations. For me, the principles of our faith taught me early on that it is better to give than to receive. And so before I ever made my first sale at Stylist Team, I committed to making Stylist Team also a platform for giving. And today, through our Grace with Style program, we are using turban donations to empower thousands of chemotherapy patients. We are educating patients about hair and scalp wellness before, during, and after chemotherapy, which is something that I've never felt like I had as a resource. And we're also finally spreading breast cancer awareness by engaging with women in Black and Brown communities, especially, and teaching them how to do a simple 2-minute self-breast exam. We're also encouraging them to have open conversations with each other about knowing your breast health, because knowing your breast health can lead to early detection, and early detection can save lives, as it did in my case. And so, diagnosis, fabric shopping, experimenting, launching a business, fashion week, media features, all of this has taught me that making history starts with yourself. It starts with your own unique story, how you held your head up during the challenges of your life, and whether your head was bedazzled at the time or not. So make no mistake, because writing a story is a superpower that we are all endowed with. And if you choose to do so, how you write your story can gift the gift of healing, empowerment, and hope, not just to yourself, but also to the society around you. And these businesses that redefine the hardest human experiences that we know, like a health diagnosis, not only reshape an individual's ability to cope with that challenge, but it also changes the norms of how our society regards anyone who has dealt with a life-changing hardship. So we remind our Stylist Team queens that cancer is just one chapter in your rich story, and that when you wear our headpieces, you're writing your name into fashion history itself. This was the inspiration behind our launch of our couture collection recently at New York Fashion Week. Through this collection, we used art itself to extend the 4,000-year legacy of the turban into the modern age. And so each style in this collection was a one-of-a-kind piece made in New York City and prototyped by me personally. And each piece honored culture, religion, and fashion throughout time. And so at the end of the day, each of these crowns was also created to honor the duality of elegance and strength that is vested in every woman that graces this earth, whatever her hair journey or health may look like. And so there's risk, reward, and revolution in all of this. Because in a hyper-competitive and oversaturated industry like fashion, new narratives are almost as valuable as new inventions themselves. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of iterations of any given apparel item. And so creating a new iteration and showing the world something they've seen a million times, like they've never seen it before, is really what it's been about for us and our path to success. The way you communicate your story, your values, and your purpose behind your creations can end up creating an entirely new niche in your industry, as it did with us when we brought together cancer and couture. And so in this way, if you're bringing together two things that are truly opposites, like cancer and couture, you will have to work twice as hard until your concept is normalized in the minds of others and your self-created niche is legitimized in your industry and accepted as the standard. And so creating by facing your challenges, I won't lie to you, it's difficult because you're entering a contract with yourself, one where you commit to always dip into your challenges as your well of never-ending creativity that fuels your business. And you have to do this on the good days and bad, and even as you're trying to heal from what you've gone through. So in other words, the image of your bald self and the image of your bedazzled self will always have to live side by side forever, so someone else has the chance to see their best self through you, even if only for a moment. And so this is how I think you can be this living example of the theme of this art festival, which is care, through your creative business. Thank you.